This segment's being sponsored by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Join us in preserving and protecting Tennessee's wildlife.
When we're getting our boat ready for our fishing trip, we'll go through our mental checklist to make sure that we have everything that we need. But you know, there's one particular item that if we forget, well, our trip is sunk. It's the plug. The plug is there to keep the water out of the boat. In the book of 1 John, he's teaching us the things of Jesus. And he tells us that even though we are in the world, we're not supposed to be of the world. And what he means by that is that, yes, we live in this world with all the evil and all the bad things and all the problems, but we are not supposed to allow that to get in us. It's just like our boat. When we take it out on the water, as long as the boat is in the water, things are good. But when the water gets in the boat, that's when we have trouble. So my challenge for you this week is this. Don't allow the things of the world to change you or affect you. There's so many negative things, so many bad things that are going on today. Don't allow them into your life. Be informed, but don't be conformed. Remember, Jesus tells us that we're supposed to be the light of the world. So let your light shine. Hey, thanks for watching our video this week. We hope that you enjoyed it. And as always, keep shooting straight.
All right, guys, this next segment's being sponsored by our friends over at Taylor's Archery. Y'all can find them at 100 East Lauderdale Street in Tullahoma, Tennessee, or give owner Tracy Taylor a call at 931-563-7706 and let them take care of all your archery needs. All right, guys, welcome back. We've switched over here and we have got the king buck sitting in front of us, and I want to talk about a few things with it. We're going to hold it up and kind of move it around where y'all can get a better view of it. But let's start out talking about, Jay, just right off the bat, because a while ago we were talking about this tine, and so let's just get that part knocked out of the way. So the tine that was in question, because that's the first thing that we're going to get asked about, is this one right here. Okay, guys, this is the, I guess this would be the G3, is that right?
Yeah, that would be the G3.
So what is being stated is that this tine is too far inset to the inside of the antler.
Yep.
And so that is what's in question. You know, it just depends on how you want to look at it. But when the as the rules stood, especially at the time, and I'm not saying it because I'm standing here, we looked at all this prior. Wes and I did. We've looked through all this, but I agree 100% that this is, we're standing here holding the world record typical deer, and I just think that's incredible. But either way you look at it, I just want everybody to be able to see it. I don't care, like you said, we just want people to see it and be able to check this deer out. So let's talk about it for a minute. First off, the mass on here. So what kind of mass measurement did this deer have?
This deer has over 48 inches of mass, which is pretty much unbelievable in a typical whitetail.
Yeah. And just to give y'all, as y'all are looking at it, I literally can't close my fingers. I can't touch them together coming from that side. So that just gives you an idea of how big around the mass on these antlers are.
It's the mass, it's the total tine length, it's the perfection in it. This deer is actually Buckmaster's world record perfect deer.
Yeah.
Buckmaster's Mike Hanley flew right to Wisconsin and scored it himself.
Yeah.
And they declared it its world record perfect deer. It still stands today. I don't believe there's a deer within 8 inches of it.
And what's the Buckmaster score on him?
It's 198 and 6/8, I believe, but they don't use the inside
Correct.
spread.
The inside spread's off of that. So you add probably a 20.
Just shy of 22 inside.
So adding that to it, what would you be at then?
Then it gets up into that 223, 224, but Buckmaster's never scored it till a few months after the drying period. And these big heavy deer will shrink.
Oh sure, yeah.
You know, it's also Northeast Big Buck Club's #1 deer in their scoring system. They take care of I think it's a 5 or 7 state corridor, the Northeast, Maine and Pennsylvania and all that area. And it was funny, when they panel scored the deer, they're all Boone and Crockett scorers. They laid out all the Boone and Crockett literature. There's 30 people in a room. And all 30 of them agreed it's a typical point, and they put the tape to it, and it's their #1 deer in their scoring system also. Boone and Crockett, for some reason, just decided they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Although it fell under every criteria of a typical point.
Yeah. Well, now the age, and we might hit this. How old was this? How old was this one aged at?
This deer was aged at 5.5.
5.5-year-old deer, and the you said you had the jawbones.
I
think.
got the
So
jaw.
you've got a lot of things from him. Now let's see. Let's kind of turn it where these, just to show that how unique the brow tines and things are, where y'all can really see. Now on the back side here, you know, we hadn't shown them that. So this is what I was talking about a while ago. That is a 30-30 hole right there in the back side of that deer's antlers. These are not replicas. This is the real deal. That is the actual antlers.
Yep.
And I can guarantee you they weigh at least 11 pounds. They feel heavier than that.
Yeah.
So pretty neat. And now, have you ever, is this, I've always thought in my head, in my mind, when these things right here happen, like these little holes in here, they're typically from a worm or something like that in the summertime when he's in velvet.
That's what I believe. Some people think it's a stick gets run in there when it's soft, but I did a show with Larry Washoon, Mr. Whitetail.
Yeah.
And the sheds actually have the same hole, but out here further. He said what whitetail deer have is tropic memory. That if it has damage one year, that it will grow in somewhere near the same spot the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did an event with Larry one time, and his first time he saw the king buck, and he's like, "You really know what you have here?" And I said, "Yeah, it's just a great typical deer." He goes, "We've recorded almost 500 million deer in this country." He said, "That's number one."
Yeah.
And I never heard anybody put it that way
when
before,
Larry says that, I mean, most of you guys probably know who Larry is, but he was one of the guys that I grew up, you know, watching my whole life, and always looked up to him, read his articles, and I got to meet him once at Bass Pro Shops. But Larry, if anybody in this nation knows whitetail deer, it's Larry. And so,
well, I call him the true gentleman of the outdoors. He's such a nice man.
He took time to talk to a kid at Bass Pro Shops one time. I can give him that much credit for sure. So
that's what you call passing it on.
That's right.
You know,
and that's what he does.
Yeah.
So tine length. How many tines are over 10 inches?
I think these are just under 10. The brows are, and there's 5 other tines over 10 inches on this deer. And it's just, like I said, there's deer that look bigger frame-wise, that are wider.
Yeah.
But when you add mass, tine length, main beams over 30 inches, this deer has it all.
Unbelievable.
You truly don't understand how big it is till you
you don't. You don't. I've got some pictures of me holding it, and I'll post them later, and you can tell a little better there in the pictures. Dayton, do you mind handing us the 6-pointer real fast, and we'll I want to just kind of show a little bit about him up close, because
I'll trade you off.
This also,
Is it getting lighter?
this deer right here definitely deserves to be looked at as well.
Yeah.
This is probably, well, obviously is the most impressive 6-pointer I've ever seen, but just the length here, I would say these are probably the 15-inch range. Is that
13.
close? 13-inch range?
Yeah.
Okay, so 13-inch GTs. I'm just trying to think
This is
what
11.
it takes to make a 150-inch 6-pointer.
Yeah, this is 11. This is 9 7/8. This one, these are both in that 13 range, 28-inch beams on a 6-point. I mean, it's just, it's just an amazing deer.
Yeah,
it's one of those ones, you can tell, I've owned this deer for quite some, I still get speechless holding it. And I mean, I get to play with these deer.
And like you say, this one draws more attraction even than the king buck. And of course, I was interested in both, but the first thing I messaged you about, man, I can't wait to see that 6-pointer. I mean, it's just as a deer hunter, we all like these big, enormous deer, but when you think about a big 6 or just a big old gnarly deer, but to be just as perfect as this one is pretty incredible. This deer carries his mass too, guys. You can see here, I mean, he's got a lot of mass as well. I would say his mass measurement is probably in the 20s, probably high 20s maybe.
Just because he doesn't look, because he's so framey and so long, doesn't mean the mass isn't there. It's just big all around. And I've been doing this for a lot of years. And in my view, these giant typicals are the true freaks of nature. It's a white-tailed deer. They can only get so big before something
That's right, and it has to be, and I hit on it just a little bit earlier, but it has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. And this deer had everything he needed except for one thing, the genetics.
Yep.
You know, we're not all going to be 6'5" and weigh 250 pounds or whatever. It's just, and deer are the same way. So when you get a deer like the king buck, it really is a freak of nature, because not only did he get the age, the nutrition, the time that it took, but he didn't get that injury that broke his antler off, or, you know, or hang it on a fence, or get it, you know, pushed around another buck. So every single factor has to come together for this to happen. But even for a deer like this, you hear the number, and I don't know what it is about the number 150, but you hear the number 150 all the time. I saw a 150, I saw a 150. And some folks do, I'm sure, but my point is a lot of people don't realize, I didn't until I started putting my hands on some, how big a 150-inch deer is.
It's an incredible animal.
It takes a lot of buck to make a 150-inch deer, period. So, you know, and they're not all going to do this. They're just not all going to do this. You might have a 5.5-year-old buck that's, you know, every bit as old as this deer, weighs as much as he does, whatever, and it might have 120-inch rack on it. You know, I mean, you just...
That's what I hunt.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we got those hanging all over the place.
Up in Upper Michigan, we've got big winters up there by Lake Superior. Nothing for cropland or nothing. These deer are out feeding on the browse and the buds, and this year again we had over 300 inches of snow, and they got to regenerate their bodies for how long before they even think of anything going into the antler.
That's right.
But you know what? You work hard for them, you honor them, and you're just happy to be able to do it.
Just as happy with them. That's exactly right.
These are just a bonus.
It is. Well, guys, we're going to get ready to go over now and do this week's tip of the week. This week's tip of the week is being brought to you by the Tennessee Outdoor Rendezvous and Deer Expo. Guys, that is coming up this weekend, May the 21st and 22nd. Y'all can get info at tndeerexpo.com. Be sure to come down there and see us. We're going to be down there Saturday from 9 to 6 and Sunday from 9 to 4. And as we've also said tonight, y'all can come down here and pick up these antlers right here and hold them for yourself. And you will be blown away, I guarantee you. So, all right, guys. Well, this week's tip of the week, whenever you are out moving your deer cameras around, what I want you to do is be looking right now for areas that the deer are bedding in and where they're hanging out right now, and kind of stay away from them. Now, I was able to find today a few trails where they were crossing some logging roads, getting some bedding, and I was just about to walk in there, and I decided not to do so and backed out of that area. If they're bedding there right now, for you guys that are going to be after them here in just a few months in August and on, you know, even into the September hunts, they're probably going to be in that same area if you can figure out the food source that they're on and this, that, and other. So the key is, and basically the tip this week is, get in there and set up, do what you got to do this summer for your deer, but leave them alone after that and get back in there and get near those same bedding areas, and that's where they'll be. We'll get ready to take another quick break, and we'll be right back with some more Southern Woods and Waters.